Let's cut right through the BS and the fluff. Hiring the wrong sales rep doesn't cost you just a few bad leads or some time lost. It can potentially cost you tens of thousands of dollars, and that is just the monetary damage. That is not equating for things such as culture fit, reputational harm, team morale, and so on and so forth. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how the wrong hire drains your business and how you can stop bleeding and start hiring the right representatives. Now let's hop right into this document that I prepared here. Now it's kind of obvious to spot a bad hire from the get-go, right? Number one thing that founders, in my opinion, do wrong from the get-go is offering a salary or a base, right? That is completely wrong. I have a philosophy, and the philosophy we follow here at Sales Match is that you eat what you kill. Right? Not only is commission sales the best structure, it also motivates sellers, or excuse me, not sellers, it motivates closers to perform at the highest level. You will not be able to attract top talent if you cap your commissions. Mark my words. If you have a compensation structure that is uncapped, you will be able to attract top talent. If you can create a clear and concise path where they can earn multiple six figures, you are going to attract the top talent. But providing a salary or base comp is not the way to go, and that is generally from the start the founder's fault. Now, and most of this is kind of the founder's fault here as well. But let's go into again what the costs are for a bad hire. Now, the second thing that we can lead into here is bonuses that are paid on bad deals or deals that should have been part of KPI in any way, right? So if your KPI is that your closer needs to get, let's just say, a deal a day, right? Well, are you going to give them a bonus if they do hit a deal a day? No. Right? That's like, awarding people, like specifically a story when I came to the United States over a decade ago, I was once upon a time an Olympic level swimmer. Now, one thing that I could not understand was when I came to America, all of a sudden, there wasn't just top 1, 2, and 3 on the podium. There was top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on a podium. That makes zero sense, right? But that's getting me off on the wrong tangent here. But specifically, the reason I brought that up is you shouldn't be rewarding reps based on the work that they should have already been doing, right? You should reward them for and structure your bonuses to motivate them to go above and beyond. Right? So again, bonuses that are paid on bad deals, or that's just part of KPIs, that is going to breed a culture for bad reps to thrive in, okay? Now again, wasted CRM, seats, tools, onboarding time, and so on and so forth, and this goes hand in hand with tech stack familiarity, right? You can have the best closer in the entire world, and I've had this personally before where I had a killer closer, okay? But here's the thing, I had to ultimately get rid of that killer closer, even though he was the second closer we had, in terms of rev collected. Why? Because he would not stop calling us, right? Every single day, we would be spending multiple hours on call with a sales representative. Again, and this is the older gentleman as well, so this stuff will happen. Hey guys, real quick, if you're looking to change your sales organization for the better and you want us to handle the constant grind of, vetting, interviewing, calling Xboxes, doing mock interviews to find top talent, we can do that struggle or handle that for you. So if you want to click the link down below and book a free consultation call with us, I want to invite you. I personally hop into these calls now and again. Hopefully I get to speak to you personally so we can see what you need, what type of rep you need, the culture fit you need, and exactly the profile you're looking for, and we can go and recruit that talent for you. So if you're interested in us having to go find you setters or closers or MDRs, click the link down below, schedule a free consultation call, and remember, we have nothing to sell you if this does not work out or if this is not a good fit, but at least I can point you in the right direction. So if you're a business that is doing over $20,000 a month in revenue, book a call with us, let's chat and see how we can help you. But other than that, let's get right back to the video. We check for things such as tech stack familiarity. Why? Because you can have the best closer in the world, but if that closer is constantly calling you, guess what? You could be using that time closing in any way, right? Or alternatively, you can get a closer that is familiar with, all the tech tools that you use, such as, the CRM, Slack and so on and so forth, PandaDocs, DocuSign. If they are tech stack familiar, they are not going to be burning up your time. Hey, Craig, how do I do this? Hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do that? Instead, they should be on calls closing deals. So that's very, very important. And the final thing goes without saying here is a culture fit. If that closer does not fit in, even if he's your top closer, but they do not get along with your culture, they backchat, they're not coachable, they are a disease to your team and you need to get rid of them way faster than the time it took you to find them. But again, most founders just stop here, but that is literally just the surface, right? I can go into so much here, but in the sake of time, I want to get into the hidden cost that no one really talks about or tracks, right? Which is the missed revenue or the opportunity cost of having a bad hire. Right? So let's just say, for example purposes, I just drew out these numbers here to show you exactly the differences between a good rep and a bad rep. So if one rep closes at 10%, right? But the target is 30%, right? Or the KPIs that they have to hit is 30%. You just gave them 50 calls, right? Not only are you paying for those calls that you gave them, the leads, right? But you are technically paying for the opportunity cost for the missed revenue that they should have gotten. If your top rep is closing at a 30% currently, which might be your KPI for example purposes, and you bring in a rep and they close at 10%, guess what? If you gave them 50 calls, okay, if they close at 10%, they just got, or this is live calls as well, they just got 5 deals instead of the top closer who got 15 deals, which means the delta there is 10 missed deals. And if your offer is priced at $3,000, that's $30,000 in missed revenue by giving basically your leads to the bottom closer instead of your top closer, right? So that's super, super, super important is the missed revenue or the opportunity cost of giving those leads to your worst closer, right? That is so important, and this is why the onboarding process, the hiring, the vetting process, the interview process of hiring closers and setters is so important. So you do not have this opportunity cost, right? Because again, good leads that are handled poorly is wasted ad spend, right? And again, reps burn trust with future customers if they do not treat them right? And in addition to that, if the leads or the actual representative is not selling correctly, right, and setting the right expectations, you will get an increase in negative reviews. Your refund rate will increase and your churn of your customers will increase as well. So not only do you got to look for, KPIs in terms of how many people they close, right? Because I've had this in the past where I have a very hard salesperson on the line. They will get a lot of people over the line, but they might not, or they might miss the crucial components where they need to be setting expectations, right? And that can cause a lot of problems in the back end of the fulfillment part of your business, where if the expectations is not set right, you are going to have a nightmare of a time, which is so important, right? You have to have your reps not only close well, but also set the right expectations so that your fulfillment can have a great time with that customer. Now, the other thing here that we haven't talked about is team morale, right? Again, high performers and top 1% close rates or closers will absolutely resent you if you decide to keep an underperformer on the team. I am 100% guilty of this, and I've seen this, right? Where now the top closer thinks that they're above you for some odd reason, right? Because you are showing them that, mediocre and dealing with mediocre talent is okay, right? That is part of the team culture. And guess what? Their KPIs and their closing rate might dip because of that, because they think they can coast and it's okay. Okay? You should always, in my opinion, run a team culture where the bottom person, right, always goes into a PIP, a performance improvement plan. If they cannot get better after you put them through the performance improvement plan where you're reviewing calls with them, you're giving them the top closers calls and so on and so forth, guess what? Bye. Okay? Replace them. That is so important, because again, if you tolerate mediocre performance, that is going to kill your sales team. Okay? And again, culture decays when you reward underperformance, right? And not specifically talking about, oh, you reward underperformance in terms of monetary. I should actually replace this with tolerate. So if you tolerate underperformance in your team, that will kill your entire team's morale. Trust me. Faster, all that work that you built it up is gone. Okay? Now, again, if you add it all up, the opportunity cost, it will make you sick. Okay? For example, these are just kind of random numbers that I pulled out here, but again, it depends offer by offer, price tag by price tag. You need to plug and play and figure out your opportunity cost. But things that you need to consider is like your wasted time, right? You know, time spent on interviews, vetting them, calling past, you know, references or old bosses, figuring out why they left their last job, and so on and so forth. Not only that, but the ad spend to recruit that actual top player. Guess what? Sales match here, sometimes we give out referral bonuses sometimes if we get a referral for a great closer for a position that we're trying to fill, right? That is something that we do as well, right? Or we run ads for a specific targeted job that we're trying to get placed for our clients here at Sales Match, right? Sometimes we'll run ads to attract the top clients or the top talent as well. That's all wasted money, right? If you end up firing that lead or that actual representative, right? Now, by giving them 50 calls, if you spend hypothetically, if you're paying $500 a call at 50 calls to evaluate how good they are, that's $10,000 just in ad spend to pay for those leads that you are burning through that representative you just employed, okay? And then again, guys, don't do this, but if you are giving them a base salary or basically, you know, again, a base pay of $2,500, that's more money lost. And then the opportunity cost that we talked about up here of, you know, the 10 missed deals between a closer that you just hired that's sitting at 10% versus, you know, an expert closer that you have in your team at 30%. That 10 missed deals is $30,000 in revenue that you just missed, right? So you can see the total cost of bad hire in this example is over $45,000. And you can plug and play your different, you know, metrics here and, you know, how much you pay on ads and if you pay a base comp and how much you pay for your leads and so on and so forth. And you will actually figure out what the actual opportunity cost is of a bad hire, right? Now, again, imagine that happens a couple times a year. Because again, if you have a bad hire, the worst thing you can do is try and hold on to them and try and train them and try and train them and try and train them. You need to be able to shake bad talent as quick as possible and rehire for that position. And again, now you're going to be rinsing and repeating all of this again, right? So again, if this happens a couple times a year, the opportunity cost of hiring the bad person or the bad rep far outweighs anything in your business, right? So that is so important. Now, I get this question all the time. Why do founders make these mistakes, right? Well, most founders, first of all, you know, don't even realize that they're making these mistakes. Myself included. A couple years ago, I did not even know the difference between, you know, a top 1% closer and a mediocre closer, right? In terms of how much lost revenue there is and the opportunity cost of dealing with a mediocre sales team such as closers and setters, right? So important that you work with the right people from the get-go, right? And a lot of things that I get here as well, you know, they seem good in the interview, right? Of course they did. Every single time you interview somebody, they are going to put their best foot forward. And if they don't outshine in the interview process, you should not hire them because again, they are actively putting their best foot forward here to perform, right? That is so important. If they do not perform in the interview, in the first interview, you shouldn't even consider having them on the team, right? Because that is when their best foot should come forward. And again, this is why at Sales Match, before we place closers and setters within sales organizations, we do reference checks. We call the old bosses, right? We ask the closers, right? Or the setters, where did you work with previously? What would that boss say about you when we call them, right? Because they know we're not going to employ somebody that had a bad attitude or that got laid off in their previous job for whatever reason, seriously, okay? So it's super important that, you know, you not only just judge them based on the interview that you're doing, but you go a little bit deeper than that and do reference checks. Look at the resume. Why did they, you know, did they work for their previous sales organization for 3 months, or were they there for 3 years? Or how many jobs did they have in the past, 2 years? Did they have 6 jobs in the past 2 years? Red flag, huge red flag. And then some of the other things I hear as well is that, oh yeah, the reps, no, they promised me they were hungry. Okay, well, instead of taking their word on it, quiz them on things in the interview such as what their monetary goals is and what their current income is. First of all, ask them what their current income is, right? And make sure that your KPIs, your OTE, your on-track earnings is higher than what their current income is. Why? Because that will motivate them to do a lot better, right? Super important that you ask these questions in the interview process, guys, because if you don't, it is going to cause problems where you might not be honest and upfront about the OTE, which is going to attract the wrong talent. Okay. Another thing that I hear a lot from founders is, oh, they just need more time, right? That, guys, I thought the exact same thing, 4 or 5 years ago. This could not be further from the truth, right? And again, this all depends on your sales cycle, and your offer specifically and your price point and so on and so forth. But a rule of thumb here is that if you give 50 calls to a closer, that is enough calls to evaluate exactly how good they are and they should be at KPI after 50 calls. That is so important, okay? And that can take you whatever amount of time, whether that's a month, 2 months, it depends on your lead flow, how many calls you're giving them a day, and so on and so forth, and specifically how long your lead or your sales cycle is. Because if your sales cycle, for an example, if you're selling a high ticket SaaS at 100K or whatever it is, and your sales cycle is 60 days, well, they can maybe rip 50 calls in a month, right? But they're not going to be at KPI yet because of the sales cycle. So you have to keep that in mind as well as how long your sales cycle is. You want to give them 50 calls and the opportunity to go through the sales cycle completely for every single rep before you move on. Now, sometimes people ask me, well, how can you evaluate that? Let's just say my sales cycle is 60 days, the example we just gave. Sales cycle is 60 days, he goes through 50 calls in a month. Well, have them go through those 50 calls in a month, have them stop new calls after a month, finish up on your pipeline, reevaluate where they are after that, and then move forward from them. It's super easy, guys. And some of the founders that I've had conversations with specifically, some of them are just plain lazy. I fell into that category when years and years ago, before I realized the importance of building the very best team, I became complacent. Right? I was too busy being pulled in this direction, that direction. I did not want to, replace my bottom rep. Number one, we kind of got along with everybody. I didn't really want to lay people off. Well, guess what? This is business, guys. You're not here to make friends. You're here to make money. Okay? So at the end of the day, if you fall into this category of, oh, you're too busy, or oh, I'm lazy, or oh, I'm too complacent, you're never going to build the best sales team. But that's also exactly where Sales Match falls in, right? We are your recruiting department, right? We keep your sales pipeline filled with reps, right? So that when you need to replace them, we replace them fast and easy for you on your behalf. So you don't have to spend time doing the interviews, doing everything else. So if you're interested in us finding you the top 1% talent where you don't have to go through all of that effort, there will be a link down below that you can book a call with us. And let's just see if we can help you. But at the end of the day, guys, these are some common pitfalls that I see founders make, and it is not an excuse, right? Your sales team is so vitally important because every single business will die without cash flow. That is the truth. And where does the cash flow cycle start? Well, arguably, it starts with your setters and then moves on to your closers. So important that you get those two things right? Now, let's talk about how Sales Match eliminates that risk completely, right? And this is what you can do in your interview processes as well. Again, we don't guess, right? We don't guess. We actually test. We put people through mock calls, right? We put them through objection handling skills, right? And this goes in what we put our reps through, which is like pitch audits. We have them pitch us. We handle, we look at the objection handling skills. We look at their prior calls, if possible, from previous companies they worked with to evaluate, how good they are actually doing on the calls, right? We'll do mock call evaluations. We'll do culture fit evaluations. We'll ask them targeted questions, right? Whenever we talk and onboard a new client of ours, which are the businesses, we ask them about the team culture, who they're looking for, what culture would be a good fit, or what personality would be a good fit within their team, right? And then we also do reference checks. We call old bosses, right? We figure out why they left their last job, and we ask the representative in the interview, Number one, why did they leave their last job? Number two, what is that boss going to tell us when we eventually call them, right? What are they going to tell us? What happened, right? And this is how we can weed out the good from the bad, because guess what? Like we mentioned earlier, everybody is going to set their best foot forward on a call, on an interview, right? So it's super important that you dig a little bit deeper after that to figure out why they left their last job, right? But this is a quick little overview of, what to avoid when hiring, right? And how to basically go through and figure out what the opportunity cost is in your team between a great hire and a bad hire, and the opportunity cost between a great closer and a mediocre closer. Well, that's it for this video, guys. I hope to see you in the next one.